Hello class and welcome to today's lecture. In today's lecture we're going to discuss the rating systems that many companies use to evaluate employees by. This is part of the performance management process and the performance appraisal process. The most common rating that's used in corporate America, certainly in many of their Fortune 500 companies, is a 5-point rating system where um, 5 is outstanding and 1 is unsatisfactory. So let's take a quick look at this rating scale and really get a full understanding of what it's communicating to us. So 5 is outstanding, 4 is exceeds expectation, 3 is meets expectation, 2 is below expectation, and 1 is unsatisfactory. So as you can imagine, if you're getting a 1, that's not a good thing, and you're likely to be fired or dismissed from the company. If you got a 5, then that's absolutely great. But most people actually get 3, and you have to understand that meets expectation means that you did everything you're supposed to do. You've achieved all of your objectives in the, for that year. So you set out for the year, these are the things you're going to accomplish, and you successfully delivered on all of them. So you did everything you were supposed to do. You were perfect. And that means you met expectations. That's a 3. What happens is a lot of people come into corporate America and they're getting 3s on their performance reviews, and they feel like it's a bit of a slap in the face because it's a 3. We're kind of used to, I suppose, the American grading system where 3 would be considered like a C, and that says you're average. Well, the average person in corporate America does what they're supposed to do. The average person achieves their goals, achieves their objectives. So a 3 is the most common rating, and it's not necessarily an insult to get a 3. However, if you find a way to achieve everything you're supposed to and go above and beyond, well, that's a 4. That's a person who exceeds expectations. So their performance is better than the average person. They've accomplished everything they're supposed to do, and then on top of that, they did some extra. So you would call this person a superhero, right? Now, if 4 means that you've met everything that's what's expected of you and you exceeded it, well, what is a number 5? Well, 5 is outstanding. A 5 is like Superman. You see, Spider-Man is a superhero, but Superman, well, he's on a whole different level than Spider-Man. So this is a person who they just did outstanding. Not only did they exceed expectations, they went way above and beyond in some way. Now, in corporate America, I can tell you that when they're looking to identify the next level of leaders, the next set of future executives, they're looking at individuals who are primarily ones. Ones and twos, but primarily ones. Ones are people who figure out how to exceed their work expectations in a dramatic fashion. It's not something that a manager could tell you what to do or tell you how to do it. It's something that that employee has to have some type of drive and initiative within him or herself to figure out something new, something innovative that the organization needs, and they deliver on that in addition to their normal job. So when you start in corporate America, if you're rated a 3, don't think that's a slap in the face. Now, a 2, this is a person who's below expectations. They didn't fulfill what they were supposed to do. So this person is going to get a lot of coaching and development, and they could be subject for dismissal from the company if they don't get it turned around. I can tell you right now, receiving rating of 2 years in a row will be very problematic and very likely to result in a person being dismissed from the company. Some organizations have a ranking system. Now, a ranking is kind of where you force people to be in certain positions, and a lot of managers don't like ranking systems. So let's say you had a team of 5 people. That means you have to put one person in each position. So you can only have 1 5, you can only have 1 4, 1 3, 1 2, and then 1 1. This is problematic for a number of reasons because, well, what if you have 3 or 4 superstars on your team? What if your team consists of Superman, Wonder Woman, and Green Lantern. So you have 3 A-class employees working for you, but still, and yet you have to rank them at something that's below what actually describes their work process, and then forcing people to be in a lower distribution when they may not actually deserve there. It's kind of a problem. There's some additional drawbacks to using a ranking system, and that is it really doesn't show the magnitude of difference between people who are 4s and 5s. So it could be just a small amount of difference between the two. We really should both should be fives. Um, or it could be a huge gap. I had one person was a five, everybody else was a four, but man, that five really just blew everyone else out the water. It also implies that the lowest ranking members are somehow unsatisfactory when this may not be the case. And it can become basically too much of a task if you have a large team. Imagine if you had a team of 100 people and now you have to somehow force rank all of them. That could become very challenging. There's another concept called a forced distribution. This is where you are forcing employees to fit some type of predetermined distribution. Most commonly, we look at a bell curve where the bulk of the people are around the middle, the center point, and then you have a few people who are extremely good, and you have a few people who are extremely bad. There's some advantages and disadvantages to this approach as well. And once again, managers tend to not like this approach, but it can help deal with rater inflation, meaning that you're rating people higher than what they should simply because you like them or you just don't want to be mean. It can make managers identify high, average, and low performers, and it ensures that compensation increases reflect performance of individuals. So those are some advantages. Some disadvantages are managers could resist putting people in the lowest or the highest groups because they just they're just resistant to it because it's just an unfavorable thing to do, right? Maybe you don't have a person you think really is at five, but you're forced to put somebody in a five category anyway. So managers may resist doing that. Explanation of placement can be difficult. So here you got a person who maybe is a five, but because of the distribution, you have to give them a four or a three, and you got to explain it to them. That employee is not going to take it very well. And performance on teams don't always follow a normal distribution. So what if you have a bimodal distribution? You have a lot of people who are fives and a lot of people who are ones or twos. So you have to force them into a distribution which really doesn't reflect. And managers may make false distinctions between employees. These are some drawbacks of a forced distribution approach. Here's an example of a bell curve where you see the bulk of the people would be meets expectations. So you can see that's 40%. You'd have 20% at below, 10% unsatisfactory, 20% at above, and then 10% at outstanding or fives. So this would be a normal bell curve. And what we're talking about is forcing the performance ratings to fit within this framework. So 40% of your team are going to have to be threes, and only 10% of your team can be ones. That wraps it up for this lecture. If there's any questions or comments, be sure to send me an email. Thank you and have a good day.